Good day, my name is Andrew Childers and I am the head coach at Being Human. You should be able to see me in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. Today we're going to be looking at mental health within the workplace. This is going to be from a business owner's perspective. It is going to be looking at the money, so I'm sorry if it does seem a little bit cold. And the entitlement of this is, how much does a dead dog cost? There are various reports in the marketplace and various statistics, but I've just pulled a few out today that are the most relevant, and that is staff suffering from mental health issues generally give a physical health reason when calling in sick, generally due to the stigma that's associated with mental health. And reports from the charity Mind and NHS, well, they quote costs to businesses of about $1,000 to $1,300 per year per employee. They do quote figures in the many billions of how much mental health is costing businesses in the UK. 1 in 4 adults experience at least one diagnosable mental health problem in any given year. Now these are the main ones because, as we recognise, as we know from our staff and ourselves really, that we do have changes in our moods throughout the year, which is natural. And this is important. Research shows that FTSE 100 companies that prioritise employee engagement and well-being, well, they outperform the rest by 10%. Now, mental health is a lot broader than just stress and anxiety, but we are looking at work in this instance, and stress and anxiety is the most common. This is due to such things as diminishing resources, new ways of working. There's a lot of people now that are working from home, which means there's less social interaction, job insecurity, increased workload, mainly due to the diminishing resources, ever increasing austerity. We're looking to make savings year on year and year. Increased retirement age. Well, this is something that we feel we're all trying to catch up on. Technology overload. There's lots more apps and systems nowadays, so this is constant change, and we know how much people fear change. And minimal increases in financial reward. But we're talking about mental health, but let's just look at illness in general very quickly, because we do have what we recognise. You can see on the left there is physical illness. This is something where your body needs to repair or recover. It may be that your kid has come home from school with some bugs, and they do love to share, and it's going to take you a couple of days or so to recover. It may be that you've twisted your ankle, or very unlucky, you may have broken a bone, but we recognise this as something where your body needs to physically repair. On the right hand side there, we've got the mental illness. Now this is the stress, the anxiety, or something in the region of OCD. But the body and the mind are not disconnected in this way. They are linked. So we have this large area that's in the middle, and I've broken this down into two sections. We've got physical illness brought on by your mental state. If you're feeling down, if you're feeling low, this is going to affect you physically. Your immune system will be lower, you'll be sluggish, for example. And then also you have your mental illness brought on by your physical state. Now, we said earlier you may have twisted an ankle, or you may unfortunately have broken a bone. This means you can't move or live your life in the way that you like to, and that's going to have an effect upon your mood. So your physical illness will affect your mental state. Now let's look at one of my employees. I am paying them £50,000 a year. That's their all-in cost to me. So that means the employee is getting roughly 35-40, and then there's all the taxes and everything else that we know about that's on top of that. For that, I'm getting 220 on average working days a year. I'm a bit tight with my holidays. I give them 20 days, and then there's the bank holidays that I allow for. This means that my actual working days that I'm getting for my 50,000 is going to be in the region of about 192, and that equates that employee is costing me about £260 per day. You'll have your own figures, but the average staff sick days for me is around about 8 per year per employee. So the cost of those sick days for me, for my organisation, is just over the £2,000 per year. I've just very quickly overlaid that back onto this sheet. So £2,000 a year, how much of that is actually physical illness and how much of that is mental illness and how much of that is in the middle? Well, we've been quoted that around about £1,000 to £1,300 per year per employee is to do with mental illness. Okay, I will accept that. Now this is just a quick chart, so it's just looking very coldly at what do I get for my £50,000 per year for that employee. Well, we recognise that staff members are going to have peaks and troughs in their performance throughout the year. Obviously, it would be lovely to have a staff running at 100% optimal performance throughout the entire year, but that's not realistic. We know that there is going to be some seasonal dips and there will be some circumstantial dips. So here's an average employee that I have. They're working quite efficiently. They're running at about 80% per year. And we can see that in January, when they're coming back in the new year, there's a little bit of a dip. There's a little bit of a dip around about the summertime when there's holidays that are going to be involved, and at Christmas time we recognise that there's going to be a little bit of dip there. But we see this employee is running on average at about 80%, and you can see on the right hand side there what I've done is I've set this as my benchmark, but even this profile with somebody that's running quite high percentile of performance, well, because they're not running at 100%, the actual cost of this profile is costing me £10,000. So using my average employee as a baseline, we now have something that's happened in February. Unfortunately, that employee has had a bereavement. Now we know that this is going to affect them. We can see that effect here by a dip within their motivation and performance, and it's going to take them a little time to bounce back. Now we can see that the effect of that dip is to add an additional £5,000 onto the cost of that profile. So that means to support this member of staff through this unfortunate event is actually had a cost to my business of £5,000. So we've got here quite quickly, a dog dies unfortunately in February. Now this is my boy, this is Neo, and I always say the more people I meet in the world, the more I like my dog. I can assure you that whatever profile we're going to go and look at now, it would be a major dip for me if something was to happen to this fellow. But what we see here is that in February there has been a small dip in the motivation performance of our employee. Obviously it's going to affect their mood and their mental state. We can see now that the cost of this profile is $10,833. So from our baseline, from our average employee, that the cost of a dog dying in February to my organisation, again to support the member of staff through this event, has cost me £833. An example of quite a major life event, a divorce, unfortunately is quite common, and it does take the individual some time to be able to overcome. We can see that it is drastically affecting their profile. It's to be expected, unfortunately, but as an employer to support that member of staff through this event, well, you can see that it's put an additional $11,250 onto the cost of my profile. Now I've included this one as it's quite interesting. It's not something that we really think about. We've got a member of staff who's come back in the new year full of enthusiasm of improving their life, so they've decided that they're going to go on to a diet. So now they're going to have cravings for food and things that they're restricting themselves on, and it definitely affects their mood, and it also affects the people that they interact with, the people around them. So you can see here there's a small dip in their mood for the first few months while they're on this diet, but actually what you can see is the cost of that to me as a business owner is to support them through this diet is costing me $1,250. We have staff, and staff are not robots, they are emotional beings. and we recognize that they are going to be going through various different life journeys, and to support them through them is going to have an effect and a cost upon our business. Now, whether you agree entirely with all my calculations, you can obviously do your own, but we do know that a relationship split, for example, is going to cost us hundreds of pounds to support that member of staff. A divorce, to support a member of staff through that event, is going to have thousands of pounds worth of impact on your business. Demotivated staff, obviously to keep the staff highly motivated, we're going to get the most out of them. Therefore, any staff that is going to be demotivated is going to have a cost to your business. The initial profile, the average employee that I put in at the beginning, had a cost to my business of £10,000. Obviously, the more that I could motivate that individual, the more I can get out of them and the less cost it would have to my business. But if there is going to be events that are going to happen within an employee's life in a business that could result in demotivation, and we know that that is going to have thousands of pounds of impact upon your business. Stressed staff. Okay, now this is very common, stress and anxiety within the workplace. And I put a question mark on this one because it's like this, it's a downward spiral. The more stressed an individual becomes, the more it affects their work. The more it affects their work, the more stressed they become, and then it goes down and down and down. Until that employee then takes time off, and what happens then is that the workload then pushes out to the rest of the organization, which puts more stress on the people around that individual, and the ripples go out. So to calculate the actual cost of stress is quite difficult, but we can see that it's actually quite vast. So what do we do to support our staff? Well, as you can see here, I've just broken this now into 3 quadrants. We want to keep our staff up in that green quadrant and high profile. Events will happen that they will drop down. We need to catch them. We need to catch them before they get down into the red zone, and we need to get them back as quickly as possible. So we need to give them the skills to be able to bounce back. Any prolonged exposure to that red zone, well, this is the depressive zone, and unfortunately when people are here for too long, they start to feel that there is no way out, and unfortunately this is the area where people do take their own lives. But firstly, how do we identify staff that need our assistance? Some will come to us, some it will be obvious, and you can recognize the ones that need help. Others, it's not going to be so simple. So we need to train our managers in the awareness of mental health to start with, how they can identify, and then once they have identified, what do they do about it? How do we support our staff? Well, if we were employing a team of robots, we would support them with a maintenance team. But we're not employing robots, we're employing human beings. But they do still require a similar ongoing maintenance. We need to ensure that they are in the right frame of mind, the right mental state, and which affects, as we said earlier, their physical health as well. We need to make them aware of their own mental health and also aware of the mental health of their colleagues around them, because once they have that understanding, then they can act upon it. We need to provide them with the resilience so that they're able to bounce back quickly from any life events. And what this does provide is a connection with the organisation. It is likely that there are those already in your organisation that need help. Some of these will be recognisable, and some of them will be hidden, I'm afraid. Some will be down, as we can see, in that danger zone, and we need to get them back up as quickly as possible. Some will be on their way down, so we need to catch them before they go too far. There may be as well some existing conditions which you may or may not be aware of in your organisation. There may be people with addictions, for example, that need assistance. By providing that support, by providing that help to those that need it, again, that gives them a connection, a loyalty to the organisation, and a gratitude that they don't forget. Another area for support are those that are suddenly dipping, those that usually have a high profile, but all of a sudden something happens. This may be one of these life journeys that we mentioned of, and they may need support through that event. It may be an internal crisis. For example, people suddenly lose their way or suddenly lose their motivation and they don't understand why, but they definitely need support during these events. It might be, as I've said there on the right there, it might be an overcoming limiting behaviour, something that's stopping them in life. Lots of people have different fears and phobias which affect them, but these are things where they just need to be able to get that support. And again, that gives them a connection with the organisation that's been there to be able to support them, and a gratitude which they always remember. So we have these phenomenal biochemical machines within our organisation, and it may be a little bit cold to look at them in such a fashion, but having spoken to many finance directors and getting a response, well, to be able to provide support or to be able to provide maintenance, it's not something that we can currently afford at the moment. But if you do look at all the other machines that are in your organisation, well, they're either maintained, they're either repaired, or they're either replaced at ever increasing costs. So with regards to these biochemical machines, with regards to the staff, how much does it cost you to repair them? What is your sickness costs per year? How much does it cost to replace them? What is your recruitment? What is your churn rate per year? And what would be the effect to be able to maintain your staff throughout the year on those costs if we was to put together a program of support and maintenance? Now, this would be something that I'm very interested in discussing with your organisation. I very much thank you for your time today. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. As I said, my name is Andrew Childers. I'm the head coach at Being Human. My contact details are here on the left, and I very much look forward to speaking to you about how we can support your staff and how we can reduce your costs.